accordion scale of buccal. What's the rumpus?
Hello, well, welcome once again to What's the Rumpus? We are here as usual at the Pink Cow restaurant in Roppongi, and we have a guest today. His name is Mr. Yu Asabe. As you can see, he's a young man, and because the theme of what we're going to talk about today is about young entrepreneurs, and he is one of those. So first of all, Yu, why don't you tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Right, so my name is Yu Asabe, and I just graduated from high school here in Tokyo, and I'll be going to Tokyo University from this April. And well, I lived abroad in California, in San Diego, for basically my whole elementary school years. And upon returning to Japan, I attended a private school here. And well, I started learning programming from a really young age, and I made like websites and small games, and that's how I really got introduced to the art of computers, and that's what really got me going. And since then, I've been making a lot of applications, including iPhone applications and iOS, like Android applications, and by doing so, I kind of got a mindset of creating new things and not just becoming a user, but also becoming a creator of the software we use in our daily lives. And that's how I started my own company when I was a freshman in high school.
How old were you then?
I'm 16.
You were 16
Yeah.
and you started your own company?
Yeah.
All right.
And well, with the support of some companies that were teaching programming to young students here in Tokyo, they kind of supported me into creating my own company. And since then, I've been kind of running online media for high school students here, and kind of creating a few more apps and stuff like that.
Now, I think I heard that one of your apps won a major award or something like this?
Yeah, and before I created my company in 2013, I won the National Application Contest in Japan. And
I mean, I don't know what that is. Can you please explain what that is?
Yeah, well, it's a contest. It's a competition where we compete for first place in a lot of software applications. We had iOS applications, Android applications, web applications, and students from all over Japan come to compete in presentations and how clean the code is and how functioning it is, and like how much potential it has when it becomes a business. And so I was able to win that in 2013.
Were you the number one prize?
Yes.
For all of Japan?
Well, all of Japan, yeah.
Wow. And what kind of app was it?
Well, the app I made was called Sound Guess, and it was a quiz game that you basically listen to many sounds that we hear in daily lives, and we try to guess what sound it is. And it's a really simple quiz game, but I was focused on the sound that we hear in normal daily lives that we don't really, kind of care about when we live, but it's actually a really big part of our daily lives. And in the application, basically you hear a sound and you get to guess the name. You enter the name of the sound, and you get points, and you kind of compete with other players and things like that. So,
okay, let's see. And so that was now a couple of years ago.
Yes.
And then after that, you made your company. And so, what is the focus, at least in your own mind, for your company?
Well, until now, when I was in high school, I did have to do both the academics in school and also my company as an extracurricular activity. So I was pretty busy, honestly. But I focused on online media, and I started online media for returnees here in Japan who can speak English and who can speak English, but don't really have the right kind of environment to be able to use that English skill and kind of talk to other returnees and stuff like that. So I created an online media that people can kind of post articles and post the essays they wrote in school, and kind of create a community where these people can interact. And people in my school in Shubaku, in Chiba, they kind of supported me a lot in kind of gathering those articles and starting the first in the first stages?
In Japan, at least in the 1980s, Japan was known as a high technology country, leading the world. But people's image of that is like Sony and all of those big corporations. In terms of, for small entrepreneurs and small businesses, at least the image we have of Japan is that it's a very harsh environment. So as yourself, as a young entrepreneur coming up, how do you feel the environment is really?
Mm-hmm. Well, you are totally correct about the environment in Japan from until now. And until now, the best career option in Japan was to go to a good university, go to a good company, and then kind of lead on from there on. But I think right now that system is starting to change, and people are being forced to actually not only rely on their companies, but actually rely on their own skills and kind of really think about what they want to do. So in that case, I think the entrepreneurship ecosystem in Japan is just starting to grow, and a lot of people around the world are coming together in Tokyo in events like Slush Asia or in other events, and people kind of coming together with that venture ecosystem, trying to start new things. So
tell us briefly, what is Slush Asia?
Right, Slush Asia is already like a startup pitch event in Tokyo, where people from all over the world really get together. People not only in the startup field, but also in the arts field and the science field. Like people from all over around the world kind of come together and try to create new ideas and kind of meet new people. And I think these kind of events weren't really frequent in Tokyo until recently, but these events are already becoming popular now. And I think that's one sign that the entrepreneurs here are getting more support than ever before.
And what kind of support do entrepreneurs need to really to prosper in this country?
Yeah, I think one is that people who kind of start new ventures, they have to know that even if they fail, they can try again. And especially in Silicon Valley in California, that notion is really clear. And people always fail, and people always start over again. And the people who fail the most basically kind of succeed in the end. But in Japan, that kind of ecosystem is not really done yet, and people are kind of starting to realize that we have to kind of accept these failures, and people in big companies as well have to support these small new entrepreneurs, and both financially and both like with the connections around the world and stuff like that. So I think that's one thing, the being able to kind of start over again from failure. And I think another thing is kind of having a really open global international community where these even entrepreneurs from Tokyo can actually interact with people from all over the world and kind of gather new ideas.
Is language any problem there? I mean, because since so many Japanese, I mean, yourself, you speak very excellent English, but that's not necessarily true for all young entrepreneurs in Japan.
Yeah, I think that's totally true. And one really big barrier for Japanese people here is English, and we do have mandatory English, lessons in school, but that's not really enough to be able to kind of speak in a really fluent way. So I think English is really one barrier that people have here. But along the way, upon meeting a lot of people who are Japanese but are kind of succeeding in these ventures, I noticed that even if they don't really speak really good English, they kind of, they really try hard to kind of express themselves and try to get their word across. And I think especially in the world of startups, that's really all that matters. And it's not really about speaking good English or bad English. It's mostly about kind of your kind of way of expressing yourself. And so I think English is definitely a barrier here, but I think if you really try to express yourself and as much as you could, I think that's really not much of a problem.
And what about investment? Are there lots of people and groups willing to invest in startups right now, or is it still a little thin on the ground?
Well, I think investment as well is kind of starting to grow these years, and right now I think there are a lot of places where you can get investment, and the opportunities are definitely growing. But comparing to these pitches and startup environments in abroad, I think it's still fairly small.
Well, is it mostly corporations that are investing or individual investors? In Japan, who's dominating the investment field?
Well, I think it's both, but I think the big companies are kind of taking the lead here right now. Yeah.
Well, you're a much younger man than I am, probably a couple generations younger. And I actually am a historian, so I tend to look backwards more than forwards. Although I think by looking backwards, you often can see some things that are forward. But from your perspective, where do you see the future of startups in Japan? I mean, is Japan really going to be a heavyweight startup country, or is it just going to be one contributor among many?
Yeah, I definitely think Japan really has the potential to become a big startup ecosystem. And, well, one reason is that I think the startups in the future, I think, will be centered around artificial intelligence and AI. And, well, that's because it's one field that I'm really interested in right now. And it's a field that I really want to study in university. And I think some new ventures in Japan, for example, from Tokyo University, there's a venture called Preferred Infrastructures, and they basically focus on artificial intelligence, and they try to use it in many fields. And so I think in Japan, especially in the sense of artificial intelligence research, they still have a potential to kind of not only become a member of the leading players in the world, but also a big startup ecosystem here.
And so basically, you feel that AI is going to be one of the areas where Japan is going to become a global leader again, or do you feel that it's just one area that you yourself are interested in?
Well, of course I am interested in AI right now, but I think Japan, we are kind of slowing down in the sense of vehicles and hardware and stuff like that. But I think if we can manage to pursue new fields in the field of AI, then if we can connect that back to hardware and kind of create new products that utilizes both AI and the hardware that we have developed over the decades, I think that's something that Japan really can have a strong influence on.
And when you look at some of the emerging startups right now, are there any specific companies or groups which are kind of exciting you?
As I mentioned, Preferred Networks from it's based in Tokyo University, but that company, it's a venture that really focuses on AI research and development, and they try to kind of connect that with the needs of the people now, and so they're really the leading company in Japan that really tries to utilizes the high-end AI technology to our daily needs, and they're really coming up with a lot of new ideas and products. So that's one company that I want to check out in the future.
Any others?
Here in Japan, well, there are a lot of really small companies that are using AI algorithms to kind of make new products and stuff like that. But I don't know, like
none of them. Are really
well,
okay. So, in terms of information, if people want to follow the scene of startups in Japan, where are the sources of information that you're drawing upon, or where you recommend that other people draw upon?
Right. Well, most of the time I just look at online sources, online news media.
So, for example?
For example, well, TechCrunch, Bridge, and I think that's Wired, and both in English and Japanese. But also I try to meet as many new people as possible, and I kind of go to small events, try to meet new people, and these small connections really kind of change my perspectives in the end. So I think trying to gather those new connections is a really important thing as well, especially if you're in Japan with a really small, rather small community. It's once you get to know some of the leading people, you kind of get to know the whole entire field. So.
And so, just to finish up, I mean, maybe this is a very basic question, but it's I think a fundamental one as well. why should people be paying attention to startups? I mean, don't these companies which have much larger resources and who use the older business models of hiring permanent salaried employees, don't they still have a future,
Right.
or are they not entrepreneurial enough, or not their R&D is falling behind? What's happening here?
Yeah, so I think it's not that the big companies are really slow or they can't make a difference. I just think that with regard to the increasingly fast, the rapid changes in the world, these startups are able to kind of utilize that speed and kind of get that opportunity and try to do new things. So, for example, in order to be entrepreneurial, you have to be creative and you have to be innovative and you have to be able to find solutions to problems in a really fast manner. And I think especially for really big companies that really have a strict matter of really conservative ideas, they really need to pass through many layers of people to kind of actually create a product or find a solution to a problem. But I think in startups, for example, there's a more flexible way of kind of finding solutions to all the problems, and usually there's a lot of really different kind of people in one situation. There's like designers, programmers, and artists, and maybe a person who is kind of really in the field, maybe medicine and stuff like that. So that flexibility is what kind of gives birth to these new products that people haven't really imagined of. So I think in that way startups are kind of potentially the game changers in the future. So I think it's really a good field to look at. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Yeah. Let's hope that this show is also a game changer.
Right. Indeed.
So you said that you spent some time in San Diego, right? So this restaurant here is actually a Cal-Mex restaurant.
Right.
So California.
Yeah, I noticed.
So our next point of agenda after we finish the show is to have a dinner. The burritos here are quite famous. Are you ready for that?
I love burritos.
All right.
Yep.
So that's what we're going to do. We're going to have some burritos now. And for all of you, thank you for joining us at What's the Rumpus. And we hope to be back next week to keep the momentum going. And if not, well, we'll be back sometime. See you later. Thank you for coming.
One more